Shut up and sit down.
Welcome once again to the Shite podcast show. Mark and Ken.
What's up?
Episode 142 of the Shite podcast show.
Yeah, nearly at 286.
Yes. We're going closer to halfway to 300.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're still in quarantine. We're still doing this over the phone. Basically, the world is pretty much the same as it is last week and the week before last. Fucked.
And the week before, and the week before, and the week before.
Who knows how long this world has been like this? Like, has it been 2 months or has it been 6 months? Who knows? It feels like a year.
Yeah, like we were saying off air earlier, the days of the week are all fucked. Like, I don't know what day it is anymore.
Yeah, I thought it was the weekend yesterday. You thought it was Monday.
Yeah.
Like, one of us is well off with that. It's been the mad times, and yeah, it's like everyone wants stuff to go back to normal so badly now. I don't know. Have you heard that, like, they're trying to open up stuff in America, where it's still the epicenter of the world for coronavirus?
Yeah.
I actually was looking at a chart it showed like certain countries and how diseases progress, and now it's a little bit old because certain countries has more cases than obviously when this article was put out, but it had it when America had just reached 1 million cases, and there's a huge drop down from everyone else. There's like a big bunching of like European countries and China and a few other countries, and like I think Germany's a little bit further down than everyone else in terms of where it starts to flattening and start to go down. Japan's a little bit further down from Germany. Australia's like, they're the golden child really, because like they fucking didn't get any of it. Like they did it really well throughout this. They didn't have New Zealand now, and they just showed you, first of all, US is just off the charts in terms that you couldn't even see the little dot where the US is and where everyone else is. And then when it goes to deaths, they actually catch up on they get closer to the bunching. They're still at the top for deaths, but like, it just shows you that if America took this a little bit more seriously and went into the quarantine a little bit quicker, the death toll would have been probably like mid to low of that main bunching of countries, like England, like I think South Korea might be in that bunching. Like France is a little bit higher up in the bunching. Like, it's just like basically what Europe went through. America would have the similar amount of deaths, but because of their inaction and like their fucked up healthcare system, is like it's basically led to like such a high cases, which led to such a high mortality rate.
It's crazy. Like, it's meant, like, they've overtaken like China. Like, that was the big kind of like here, what's going on.
Yeah, well, you also have to question China's actual numbers.
Yeah, you have to question. Yeah.
Yeah, so like, well, you can like, so China would have like overtaken a country that has such a larger amount of population than you is one thing, but China is kind of hard because of the amount of like cases they actually might have had, or like no one really knows the numbers what they're saying.
Yeah,
I know at one stage, but like America had more cases than all of Europe combined.
Yeah, like, that's a bit mental.
Yeah, so like when it gets to that stage, you know, you're kind of fucked up, and like at one stage Europe was the kind of epicenter of the world.
But like, I think part of the problem is that Americans like aren't prepared to like isolate themselves at all. Like, there is some that are, but like there's like mass protests over it.
Yeah, well, that kind of happens everywhere. You kind of get now like in all over the world, but like obviously America is a large enough country, so you're gonna get that kind of highlighted. And there, like we've talked about on the show with like people who have rocket launchers going to subways because they don't want to be locked in their houses, and so like it's kind of strange. And you know, I think people can be influenced so well. So there's such a strong right wing like party base over there. So if like a tagline like open up in America, it catches on. It's kind of spreads, and like you start hearing people regurgitate the same taglines these actual people actually believe. And then when you press anybody on them, they don't actually have a solid answer because their basis is just basically of being brainwashed. Like I know enough
Yeah.
people who are like that over here, who basically said it's all about control, and then you ask them like, okay, who's controlling it, and they can't answer who's controlling it. They say, oh,
Yeah.
the government, and they're like, okay, what does the government have to answer about it? And they're like, oh, I don't know. Like, give a motive like why government would shut down the world's economy. Like,
Yeah.
who's gaining from this?
Like it's all just kind of half baked conspiracy theories.
Well, yeah, it was not even. It's basically taglines that they read up on Facebook, like that just makes them feel better, or makes them justify their anger, or like, but they have no basis of truth. They've never put any research into their beliefs of why they want the country to reopen, other than like they want to be able to go to like their coffee shop or be able to go get their hair done, or like superficial reasons. And they're like,
Yeah.
and then because like, well, I'm only taking from Ireland's point of view. We've locked down quite early, and we've done a reasonable job of controlling the virus compared to like when we first came into this. Like I don't think anybody held the HSE up to high standards in terms of like healthcare, and it probably still wouldn't be held up to the high standards. But they done a hell of a better job than like most of the country.
I like you just have to like the health minister, like Simon Harris, was hated.
Yeah,
And like he's still kind of hated, but like a lot of people are like, well,
fair.
he's
Yeah.
doing all right.
Oh, well, I think it's more like that. The head doctor, your man, what's his name? Tony something or other.
Tony Houlihan.
Yeah, Tony Houlihan. I think more he's the one really leading the charge in this. If anyone thinks Simon Harris is doing anything, like he's just maybe a spokesperson, but it's really Tony Donovan that's running the health service right now. And that's the reason why like it hasn't been as bad. Even like when they're talking about opening up, reporters are going to him and asking him, "Will the country open up sooner, or will they?" And he's like, "No." And then obviously the government comes out and says no.
It's mad, like.
Yeah, so like, I just think because people live in here, they kind of know that they feel like it wasn't as bad as people thought, and like just go over to somebody in Italy and see how many people in Italy thinks that, or else go look at like what happened to the US who aren't taking it serious. Go look at any country that slightly restrict their like lockdown and they see increasing numbers. Like there's enough evidence around the rest of the world, like Sweden. I've heard even a few people compliment Sweden, and this shows you kind of like how ignorant. Like Sweden have a smaller population than Ireland, not by much, but it's slightly smaller than Ireland, and they have 30,000 cases and a good few thousand more deaths. But yeah, I guess that's the luxury of living in a country that did everything right. You can't think it's fake news.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, people, or I guess fortunately for those people, they're not actually going to find out the horrificness if they didn't obey social distancing and stayed in their fucking houses. But through this coronavirus, we've went on an unexpected journey, me and you, with NBA.
Yeah.
Hardcore listeners of us would often hear us mention when we somehow got onto sports, talking about NBA and talking about how me and you don't really know a lot about NBA, and I can pretty much say that's still the case. But in the course of coronavirus, I have watched several documentaries on basketball. I watched The Last Dance by Michael Jordan. And that's probably one of the best documentaries I've ever seen. So then I started getting like all these weird YouTube clippings of basketball. So I ended up watching them to the point where now I bought a basketball game. And then I got advertisements on Facebook and on Instagram of basketball t-shirts. And I was like, well, it's coming into the summer. basketball t-shirts are quite light. I might as well pick them up. So I have 2 basketball jerseys. I went from a person who knows pretty much nothing, and I kind of still know nothing, even though I played a basketball game, to ordering 2 basketball jerseys, and with the basketball jerseys, I got a free cap and a free face mask, which I also thought was quite nice.
And didn't you also like play basketball in school?
No,
No,
I don't think so.
I thought you said before that you played basketball in school.
No, I played basketball on my phone.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I think I might have played it on like on the streets wherever no one. I don't think any of us really knew how to play basketball. It was just like we're all against each other, just try to score in the hoop. Who knows? Who knows what will happen? Who knows how to even score this?
Isn't that how basketball works?
Yeah, there's kind of like nuances, like you're not allowed to touch off a person. There's certain things about like slapping the ball. I don't know if you're allowed to slap the ball as it leaves the person's hand. I think that's like called a block shot. I think there's weird rules like that. You're not allowed to touch the person who's defending you, so you're not allowed to push them out of the way. And then there's like a 3-point line you probably know about, and then it's 2 points inside the shot.
Mm.
So I've learned actually a lot about basketball through even playing.
It's kind of a socially distanced sport. You can't touch each other.
Well, it's no, you're all like you're trying to block persons. You're getting up quite close, but
Yeah, but you can't touch.
you can probably put your hand on. You can, or like you're not really meant to touch. There is still a kind of like shouldering and stuff going on it. A lot of people get elbowed.
Right.
Did you not watch the documentary about Michael Jordan?
No, I didn't.
Well, watch that and you'll realize that basketball is that in fact an actual contact game. Like people get elbowed in the face and all. But yeah, it's the power. It really is the power of Facebook advertisement, or how we're marketing stuff at, because you click on one YouTube video, and next of all, you're down a wormhole of ordering 2 basketball jerseys and a free cap. Another thing, like most people who are fans of this show would also be fans of Joe Rogan's podcast.
Yeah,
I'd say a good majority of them anyway.
I'd imagine so.
And did you see on Instagram he put up a little video saying that he's moving his entire podcast to Spotify?
Yeah, so that's an interesting move, like.
Yeah, see, Spotify wants to become the biggest podcast distributor in the world, so they're trying to take over the market. And now, certain podcast and podcast sites have done exclusive deals with certain publishers, and it's kind of a new trend thing that's happening. So I know up on Stitcher, because I was reading up about it, and they have like Stitcher only homegrown content, which is just like stuff that is up only on Stitcher. And then there's a few other sites that are doing something similar enough. Podbean does like exclusive only content, and then other people they'll have content that goes out everywhere, and then they'll have their just Podbean content. And there's a load of other sites, but like it's starting to come more and more kind of like people trying podcasters. Podcast sites are trying to link up with companies that suit them best, instead of having 50 different distributors of places where you listen to your podcast. You can just basically have one. It's kind of how the market is kind of changing.
Yeah.
So it's quite interesting. I know, because I just know musicians that would be on SoundCloud and make music for a living, and they get paid royalties for their music. So I don't know what it is on Spotify, but it's something very small. I think.
Yes, Spotify is like you need 1,000 listens for 1 cent.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So like, if you can start getting like a few thousand, like if you imagine that, like if you have 1 million listeners, you start to make serious money. Now they probably will cap it at a certain amount, but they do not. But they do not do the same with podcasts. So podcasts, every on the same with SoundCloud. So it's not just Spotify for the SoundCloud is the same. A few other sites that do give money to musicians don't give them to podcasters. So it'd be nice to see that if podcasters start to get paid in the same way for having their content on like Spotify and SoundCloud, because it doesn't really happen right now. Maybe Joe Rogan changes this.
Maybe. I don't know if he will.
No, I don't know. No, I think it's just gonna be just him. Like, but I imagine because his videos, like, as well as that, like those Joe Rogan clips, like those clips alone, get a few million views, and then his podcast himself on YouTube get a few million views, and then every single podcast distributor that Joe Rogan's on, he's usually number one. He is by far the most popular podcast in the world right now, podcaster in the world.
Easily, like everybody listens to Joe Rogan. Even people who don't give a fuck about anything listen to Joe Rogan.
Yeah, exactly. He imagined to like, I don't like. It's very like it's very interesting how he's done it, because he's not a niche, even though he talks about very very niche things, and for somehow he can bring on like scientists in microbiology. You can bring on like hunters. You can bring on a range of guests about interests that like a lot of people wouldn't really have, and still manage to make a huge following. Now that's obviously he's a huge, very successful comedian, fight commentator, and well-known figure like out podcasting. That does help, but there's a lot of people who would have similar credentials that wouldn't be half as popular.
Yeah, like I don't know, like he's just mad. Like
I'm
Joe, like he kind of anything he tries, he kind of becomes like the best at.
yeah, no, it is quite odd. Like in terms of like how he does his podcast, 3 hours. Like a lot of things that when people are starting a podcast, like if you're going to give people advice by starting a podcast, if you look at Joe Rogan's his way of starting a podcast, you wouldn't follow. Like his is completely different the way people like. You're first told to like make it a niche podcast. So find a niche. That's your niche. Stick to your niche. Then you're told to like keep your content short and simple and sweet. Like edit it down to like the core like basics of his podcast. His podcast go on for 3-4 hours in it. Like another thing he constantly doesn't do. He eats on air. He smokes on air. Like these are things that like people who are audiophiles who absolutely hate like even S sounds who drives them absolutely insane, and it's actually quite a common thing. So you're told like never eat on air, never drink on air, never breathe on air. You're just told to keep it very very short and edit every other thing other than you're talking out. And he doesn't do any of that, and he's his most popular podcast. So, like, I don't know if people are starting a podcast, what to tell them. Like, maybe everybody else is wrong, and we shouldn't be editing our podcast, and we shouldn't be. We should let them go on for 5-6 hours, because apparently people like that.
And we should just like eat dinner while we're doing
it. Yeah, exactly, and slurp some like heavily kind of semi-liquid foods as well.
Yeah.
To just add insult into yeah, loads of nice thick soup. Yeah, but I imagine it like what Spotify would have had to pay Joe Rogan. You said that they would have had to taken all of his earnings from his podcast and increased it. I think maybe because of like a lot of his content gets demonetized off YouTube, and and he was saying that like all his video content is also going to be on Spotify, which would be a new feature for Spotify. I don't think they currently have video content as well.
Yeah.
So I wonder if they might have only had to match it and just say we won't demonetize you.
Maybe, but like I'd imagine anyway that he would have just said, "Fuck it, like give me an extra whatever."
Yeah, like I think I heard someone saying he's getting in and around like $1 million an episode when you take in everything. It could be more. But I imagine that would be like a near starting figure for what he's possibly looking for to like move. Because before this, he wouldn't even go on. Like Joe Rogan isn't on Spotify, which is another weird thing where it once again like
Yeah.
Spotify is becoming the biggest podcast distributor. Like the biggest podcaster wasn't on a big up and coming big podcaster, and for years he has been saying that like he wouldn't go on them on Spotify. I don't know what his reason behind it was.
It was something to do with royalties and payment and stuff. It was because of how much they pay like musicians and shit. He was against it because it wouldn't have been worth his while to like put it up because he wasn't getting any money out of it.
Yeah, well, like I guess he probably seen that he had a big enough audience already, and he's probably like, if you just don't want to pay me, because like he isn't getting paid off iTunes or he isn't getting paid. He probably is getting, if his podcasts are up on SoundCloud. No, SoundCloud doesn't pay for podcasters either. Like he's not getting paid off anybody else other than YouTube. But yeah, so I think that's really really interesting. It's going to be kind of interesting enough to see how this changed the landscape for podcasting in general. Maybe it doesn't change it much, but maybe like this could be the way where they open up to podcasters and say, look, if you're able to get 30,000 views or clippings, that will start paying you. Like I think YouTube is 15,000. Would you once you crack that barrier, you can start getting royalties.
That's not too bad. Like we're only about 15,000 off.
Yeah, about no, it's 14,000 and 93 off it. So like nearly there's baby steps. Like Joe Rogan was going on since the 90s, so maybe by year 2030.
Yeah, maybe.
We'll be up to, we're finally getting paid.
We'll try and get Joe to drop us a mention.
Yeah, if Joe Rogan can mention us. we mentioned him, so like,
yeah,
mention for mention. You know, L for L, M for M. Well, anyway, it's kind of a strange time anyway for this world, and Joe Rogan going to Spotify just makes it feel a little bit stranger.
Yeah,
I think another thing that might make it feel stranger, if you're single and you're finding you have to go on dates through Zoom instead of your local pub.
Yeah, like that. I don't know how I feel about that. Like,
I imagine like it would be quite embarrassing to go on a Zoom date, wouldn't you? Would you go? First of all, would you go on a Zoom date? Would you have a part of your house that you'd use like for your Zoom date? I know you're a happily married man, so
like I imagine it'd be very awkward.
Yeah, more so than what most like first dates probably would be if you met someone online.
Yeah, like at least though, with like a face-to-face first date, like you've got that kind of, you're both kind of there. like with Zoom, I imagine it'd be totally weird. Like it'd be very very awkward.
Yeah, like I wonder, do you like both decide to go make yourselves dinner or like buy a takeaway and eat it like with your iPad on the dinner table? Is it kind of is it casual like?
Yeah, like cause like in person, like you could go to you can go to the cinema or you can go to the zoo or you can go to dinner or whatever. But
you can go to a pub or there's options there. And
on Zoom, you're literally just going to sit there and like talk.
Yeah, exactly. Who wants that?
Like that's really awkward when you don't know the person.
Yeah, exactly. And like with this whole Zoom dating now, there's come a long range of products you can buy to help you out with your Zoom dating. One of these is the virtual dating breast suit. Now, for any girls out there that may be not kind of well endowed in the breast area, this might help with this problem. So they have like 34 of these up
There
to
go the women.
up to 38 F. They might be tuned in even harder. 38 Fs, and they range in price from $46 to $66 for these breast suits. And don't worry, lads, use arms left out in the cold, because you can now also get a muscle suit as well.
There you go.
So, but like, what I don't understand with this, maybe people who own this or selling this suit are kind of hoping that people have very poor resolution cameras that they're going on these dates with. But like, I imagine if these people, because all it is like a clotted muscle suit, like it would just be really obvious. Like the nipples, the bras have nipples. Like, unless like maybe one of these Zoom dates is going like braless but has like top on, so you want to get a bit of nipple action. I don't know why like these exercise need nipples.
Why not? Like,
It's kind of unnecessary. Like, you're surely not going to take your top off for a Zoom day and then to reveal that you're wearing fake tits.
well, you never know. Maybe that's the way it's going.
Yeah, maybe, but like, what women kind of get away with this because there's like stuff like padded bras, and there's stuff like chicken fillet things that you can stick down your bra. There are products out there for this. For men who are wearing a muscle suit, surely like, as soon as he's actually meet and you're not that size or that ripped, she's gonna be like, "Oh, you've let yourself go," or "You're half the man that I seen on Zoom," or "Where's your six pack gone?"
Quarantine got rid of it.
Yeah, but he's met in quarantine.
Yeah, quarantine fucked it up. Like,
You were ripped like 2 weeks ago, and now suddenly you are kind of like skinny and like no definition, or you're fat.
you just tell her you're an elite athlete.
You're elite athlete.
That's how quick your body changes.
You have a very slow metabolism, and that takes constant work and repair in order to keep it that way. And I'm only a few days. I took a few days rest. And I've turned to shit.
And now I'm fat.
But like muscle suit is made of fabric, so like if you take it off your top to show your sick abs, unless it's like,
but why would you be doing that?
I don't know, like clearly I don't know how a Zoom date works, to be honest.
Is that a Mark Kearns first date tip? Like, take off your top and show her.
No, you start off of naked. there's this site called Chat Roulette.
Yeah.
And basically you go into this site and you don't know who you're gonna have a conversation with, and every few seconds a different person pops up, and you chat to them for a few seconds, and then it's another person, and it just constantly is this guy like that. Like, as soon as their web camera comes on to them, they have like, they're just showing you your dick. I imagine that's what Zoom dates are becoming. Is just chat roulette, just on a very more personal level. Of like people just put naked, and they're like, are you naked from the top down? No. Or naked from the bottom down? No.
That's just my face.
That's my face. That's just the way the light is in this room. It makes me look naked. But I imagine, yeah, maybe. Well, see, we have no personal experience about online dating in terms of Zoom dates. So I imagine that if there's a muscle suit, and breasts that show the nipple, apparently people are getting naked for these Zoom dates.
I think you should test it out for next week.
Test it out, go on a few Zoom dates.
Yeah.
I can be our roving reporter.
Yeah, go into the field and report on this.
Report on this Zoom dating, and see how many are wearing these breast, what are they called, virtual date breast suits. But it isn't just lonely singles that have to adapt to these changing times is also priests. And there's a priest in Michigan who, around the time of Easter, wanted to bless people because there's apparently a ritual around Easter. The people will come to mass and get their blessings. So obviously you have to keep 2 meters away, and there's social distancing, and you're not like touch anybody's face because that's frowned upon now. So he had to think on his feet, and he came up with a water pistol. So instead of actually blessing people, people drive up to just outside the church. He's wearing his face mask, and he has a water pistol, and he squirts them in the face with holy water.
Like the irony of squirting people with holy water, but from a gun.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. Like, he's quite old, and I don't know if you ever tried to shoot a water pistol. The aim on them aren't great anyway. Like, it is only a small enough one. But imagine it's getting a lot of places, but not your face.
He should have got a super soaker.
One of those like five action shots.
Yeah, like you squirted once and it like wastes 10 liters of water. One of those yokes.
Your whole body gets blessed as well as your car.
Yeah.
But like, imagine a lot of people are just getting squirted either in the eye or the chest or like anywhere but their face.
Yeah.
It's more of an aggressive way of doing Holy Communion. But I think our prize for most creative way of dealing with social distancing has to be the K-League in Korea or South Korea. Because one of their teams had to apologize for using sex dolls as fans.
As fans?
Yeah. So the 2016 K-League's winner, FC Seoul, where it had to come out and apologize for using sex dolls instead of fans. Now, one Twitter user pointed out that they could have just used mannequins, and this is what they claimed originally.
But why did it need fans at all?
When you watch football on TV, you can often see fans in the background.
Yeah.
Or when a goal is scored, they pan to the fans, and there's always like fans dressed in the paint of their colour or favourite teams. So obviously you can't have fans because of social distancing. Yeah. So they decided to try to capture some of that magic of seeing fans in the audience by having what they claim to be mannequins. So FC Seoul decided to put a load of mannequins, dress them up in jerseys, and give them signs and hold the signs. Except eagle-eyed watchers soon realised that they kind of look a little bit different than the average kind of mannequin that you might see at the shop front of a shop. That their breasts were slightly larger and had nipples on them. And
you're obsessed with like fake breasts and nipples today.
It's quarantine, man. Anyway, they realised that like a lot of these mannequins had nipples. And realised that these weren't actually, in fact, mannequins. These are sex dolls that FC Seoul were using as fans. So they had to come out and apologise for using sex dolls as fans. But imagine like they had to quarantine a whole team. So I wonder if they're used sex dolls by the time they managed to get from the pitch, from the stands.
Like, wonder did
yeah,
did they just turn around like the manager say like, here, everybody just bring sex doll to work with you.
Everyone bring your sex doll. We need to use them as fans. Now, what is hilarious for people that might have ever seen a sex doll before, you can. Obviously, the mouth is open for obvious reasons, right? So, in order to like cover up the fact that they had an open mouth on a mannequin, they stuck face masks on all the mannequins or sex dolls.
That's brilliant.
To cover up the fact that they were using sex dolls. So I thought that was quite brilliant that they were using, and they kind of win in terms of the kind of social adapting to social distancing, which is just using sex dolls.
They win the internet, I think.
They don't win it. I'll tell you what will win in the internet. We'll get to that really shortly. But right now, you have a story for our listeners about penguins and laughing gas.
Yeah, so there's I think it was Sweden, maybe it's Sweden. I don't know. No, Copenhagen. The University of Copenhagen decided to do a um like research project, and like the way there's the whole link between like cows and like methane affecting the atmosphere and the environment and stuff.
Yeah.
So like they decided that they were going to do their research on penguins and see if penguins in any way like contributed to like global warming and the melting of glaciers and all that kind of shit. And they found that like penguin shit was it had like slightly, it was like an insignificant amount, like it wasn't going to cause any damage to anything, the amount of like chemicals and stuff in it, but that they actually found that penguins like excreted a massive amount of laughing gas, like of nitrous oxide, into the atmosphere, which like was quite interesting. Like penguins literally fart laughing gas.
You imagine like they don't make any laughing sounds, so maybe penguins are actually immune to laughter.
Maybe like it's just that's mad. Like so like, if say like keepers in the zoo, like when they're minding the penguins, like if a penguin farts, are they going to start laughing?
I don't know how much like nitrous oxide you have to intake before you start having an effect on you.
Yeah.
So I imagine like the penguins would have to be very gassy that morning, if in order for like to have an effect on a zookeeper. But you never know. Like if like laughing gas makes people happy, maybe like working with penguins
probably
boosts like your mood.
Maybe that's why everybody loves the penguins.
Yeah, I don't know. I would have put down penguin bars.
Like
It's a bit of a bold claim, I know, but like more research is needed.
That was like the major thing that the research like found. Like they have no real negative environmental impact, but they fart a lot of laughing gas.
They fart like nitrous oxide.
Yeah.
Also, if they can bottle penguins' farts, like that's the main component of NOS. So you can
there you go.
You can put it in wheels of cars, make your car go faster, or fill up balloons for parties.
Yeah, so penguins are sound, like.
Yeah, the gas. Quite literally.
Gas.
Quite literally.
they're good for a laugh, like.
Yeah, there's another kind of story I found on the internet, and it's another dating related story. There's no breasts in this one. So yeah.
You had a bit of a team going there.
I had a bit of a team of breasts today. I'm going to tell you what's on my mind. There's a tennis player called Eugene Butchard, which is probably how I pronounce her surname. But she's 26 years old, and she has basically auctioned herself off. She is offered to go on a date to the highest bidder. Now,
is it a Zoom date?
I imagine that it isn't a Zoom date. This was all done, I think, prior to COVID-19 or the outbreak, because there's a kind of other things. This is just the date isn't. It's only the start of the package. Now the highest. I'll go into what they get you. So, as well as getting the chance to meet her in the flesh. And bring her to dinner, which you'll probably have to pay for yourself. The lucky winner will also get a chance to catch her play tennis and receive some signed merch. So imagine, obviously, tennis is going to be probably cancelled for a while, or at least with fans. So imagine maybe next year she'll have to go on this day. But when this first started, the opening bids were for $2,500.
Jesus.
So people who, when they first start bidding on this, really wanted to go on a date with this girl, Now she is quite a good looking girl. But one lad paid $85,000 to go on. The winning bid was $85,000.
That's a bit excessive, like.
Yeah, to go on a dinner date. Like I said, you'll probably have to pay for yourself.
And who knows when it's going to happen.
Yeah, and who knows when it's going to happen.
At this stage, it could be a Zoom date.
Yeah, a Zoom date. It more likely will be a Zoom date. But you never know. You buy one of those breast or enhancement or peck enhancement things if you're a man, and you could go on to winning. You might be on to a winner there. Now, I will say she isn't doing this for her own personal gain. Some lad isn't writing her a check for $85,000. She is doing it for a charity.
Yeah.
I did have in my notes where the charity. Oh yeah, the charity is 15 Seconds of Fame. Is the name of the charity, and that's why she is auctioning herself off to go on a date with a person, is to for the charity 15 Seconds of Fame. And yeah, I don't know what 15 Seconds of Fame do, but it's probably a good cause if they're a charity.
Their charity has to be something.
But it has to be something good. But I think the comment that actually wins the internet is a guy by David Johnson. If you go onto the Lad's Bible and you find this story, you'll find it. And he obviously didn't read the whole article. He just read the headlines. And nearly what I was going to do, and just basically talk about the fact that some lad paid $85,000 to go on a date, and he said, "I'll stick with Tiffany. That's my hooker, a friend." And she's sturdy handshake and a heart of gold. And what she does with me for £50 will make your eyes water. Plus, she's a good cook. So I also get a delicious slice of apple crumb. It was the best comment I've ever read in anything. So yeah.
Oh, get in contact with that lad.
Yeah. We might have just found our third host for the podcast. Yeah, so like he basically said his hooker friend Tiffany, who has a heart of gold, as they said, does so much stuff for him for just £50. And he's also a pretty decent cook, apparently, and gets apple pie at the end of his I guess, interaction with Tiffany. So well done, sir. Well done, Mr. David Johnson. You by far win the internet. So it was pretty good. You have a story about herbal cigarettes.
Yeah, like from today, like it's illegal to sell like what are they called, menthol cigarettes.
Yeah.
Or like any cigarette that is flavored.
And what's like the idea behind this?
I think it's pretty much to just like stop people, like, you know, people that like smoke socially and stuff. Like a lot of people would smoke menthol cigarettes because they're out and about or when they're out drinking or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think it's to kind of try and stop, you know, social smoking.
Like I'm in if I go, I'm in a lot of like smoking areas.
Yeah.
But I've never in my life seen people like smoke a herbal cigarette, like a flavor cigarette before. I don't know how big of a market they are over here.
They're pretty big.
But I have actually smoked one before, and I remember the whole idea is that they're not actually bad for you. Because I remember when they first came out, they were on the Late Late Show, and when a guy brought it on as a herbal cigarette, it was just around the same time the smoking ban came in, and this is what people thought, like, oh, they might replace cigarette smoke in in bars. If that's if that's the product I'm thinking of, they were called herbal cigarettes, and they made they weren't joints, and they were made. Yeah, it's a herbal cigarette. It's good for you, Mark. Smoke it. It's making me really, really weird. Are you weird? Looking at me weird.
I think they're different though.
Oh, so is it just flavored? Is this kind of I know there is in the US a ban on flavored vapes.
Yeah, like it's just like it's flavored tobacco basically.
Yeah, I just don't see why you ban that, but not ban cigarettes in general.
Well, to ban cigarettes in general, you're going to have a lot of people probably. Like if you just did it outright, you're going to have a lot of people kind of pissed.
Plus, it goes straight to the black market.
Yeah, like if you get rid of the like menthol ones and stuff, you're going to just kind of get rid of casual smokers.
I imagine they just switch to vapes.
Yeah, I'd imagine so too. Yeah, they'll just switch to vaping. Like,
Yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, I guess I can see why they are there, and they're making it as inconvenient for people as possible to smoke by like taking out certain options, and maybe like they see it as a way of trying to get kids into smoking is by having like flavored ones.
yeah.
Well, I never, like I said, I never knew anybody that smoked herbal cigarette.
Like they are quite popular. Like a lot of them do. Like you would sell a lot of them. Like,
All right, and so yeah, I guess for smokers, this is kind of or people who smoke like herbal cigarettes. Like I think it's the kind of like I wouldn't put in as niche like chewing tobacco. Like not a lot of people do it. It's just kind of like it takes it off a few people. It's a way of eliminating it without pissing off too many people.
yeah, but like I said, like I think it's mainly just kind of people who just smoke for whatever. Like their friends are smoking, so sure, smoke a little bit, smoking out a menthol cigarette.
Yeah, I know a lot. I do know social smokers who will smoke regular cigarettes, or sometimes they switch to vapes, when they're kind of out drinking. But yeah, and like I said, it would be it'd be kind of odd. Like it seems like an odd thing just to ban.
Yeah, like I don't know, like it's a strange one. Like why just randomly pick flavored cigarettes?
Yeah, it does seem like an odd one to pick, like herbal cigarettes or flavor cigarettes. Like it seems like it's like filling in a really tiny hole in a road when there's like a giant crater on the other side.
Isn't that what we do?
That's pretty much what you do. It's a lot easier. I think we've actually just figured out why they're doing it. It's just a lot easier. Like we can solve this small problem or this massive gaping hole of a problem. Like personally, I'm going to figure the small one and pat myself on the back and feel good about myself. And yeah, that's why they're doing it.
Like, I don't know how well it'll work. Like I don't know if it'll bring down the amount of people smoking. Really,
Probably not. But might slightly increase it, but I imagine it'll just do the same.
because like people that are smokers probably like hardcore smokers probably don't smoke menthol cigarettes anyway.
No, they're like they probably judge people who don't smoke menthol cigarettes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. So I know one girl who used to smoke, or one lad that used to smoke them, and he used to smoke ones that like taste like chocolate. There's like the chocolate ones, and or someone like borrowed a cigarette off him, and it's funny how they call it borrow a cigarette. You're never going to give that cigarette off him back, but got a cigarette off him. And he said he could slightly taste he's like, what is this? And he's like, oh, it's a chocolate cigarette or chocolate flavored. And he goes, all right, yeah, you can kind of taste it, but it's like it wasn't nice. Like it turned the regular smoker and thought they were disgusting.
I don't know what it's going to achieve, or if it'll achieve anything.
Yeah.
Or if it's just another way to cut down the amount, like, because there's a lot of different like brands of cigarettes and shit.
Yeah, exactly. And like personally, as a non-smoker, I think also a cigarette smoke smells the same.
Yeah.
So like, but I imagine if you're a smoker, you could probably tell the difference between branded cigarettes.
Yeah, like there's a lot of ways that cigarette companies try to get around these bans as well and stuff. Like it's
Add your own flavor.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that'll probably be the next thing. Like they'll just start releasing like
flavorings for cigarettes.
yeah,
Like surely all you have to do is just soak it in whatever flavoring for a while, and then the paper will absorb it.
yeah.
Yeah. So like I don't know what he's going to achieve, but I don't know what the girl in our next story was trying to achieve either. Smooth segue. And
Good segue.
because she's trying to get back at her ex-boyfriend. Now her ex-boyfriend, just before he broke up with her, cheated on her. And she spent 3 days crying over him. She was upset to hear that he really wasn't that sad at all.
Right.
So she tried to like get back in a sort of way that felt fitting to her.
Yeah.
But probably like for our listeners, we'll probably make them feel that her boyfriend probably did the right thing as ending a relationship when he did. Because she got 1 ton of red onions delivered to his house.
1 ton.
Yeah, 1 ton of red onions delivered to his house.
How much did that cost?
It didn't go into it. It didn't say actually how much to get. Now you imagine maybe this was in the US or some part of England. This was in Zebu in Shanghai, China, right? So like obviously they must have like, so imagine, well, food products are really expensive in China.
Yeah, like
tech products like this come from people who never know nothing about China. All these facts could be like definitely probably are wrong. That food cost is really expensive.
Questionable anyway.
But IT products are quite cheap. But I imagine 1 ton of red onions would be quite expensive.
Yeah, like I think it's 2 something for like 500 grams of red onions.
2 something over here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so imagine for like maybe there's a place where they grow them in China. Maybe it's a little bit cheaper than where we're actually thinking. So imagine if you can order a ton of it, you might get a discount.
Maybe she lives on a onion farm or something.
Yeah, but so you imagine like if you ever have one delivered to your house, people are like, "That's big." They'll generally asked you to either sign for her, and she asked for strict instructions to not to contact the recipient, but to deliver it and just leave it outside his house.
How would you even clean that up?
Yeah, so like, and she basically left in the letters that said, I cried for 3 days straight. I hope these red onions make you cry as much as you made me cry. Like, I kind of read that and I felt like, first of all, because it talked about how she was cheated on just before he broke up with her, and I was like, oh, that's bad. And then I read it, then I kept reading, and I was like, maybe he was right to break up with you. You seem like you're mentally unwell.
Yeah, but she seems perfectly grounded.
Yeah, like I have no reason whatsoever why this guy was breaking up with her in the first place. Like, for her to go out and buy like a ton of, not just like a bag of red onions and leave it at her door, not 2 bags, but a full ton of red onions.
Like, that's just ridiculous.
Like, I'm not surprised he cheated on her and then left her for whatever this other woman was. Like, she kind of seemed a little bit unhinged.
just slightly.
I imagine, you know what you were saying when I said about the virtual breast thing?
Yeah.
I imagine any girl listener that we had has now gone, fuck him.
Yeah, they're well gone.
But surely our whatever girl listeners that we have left would agree with me that it seems a little bit crazy to go and deliver 1 ton of red onions to or get them delivered to their house. I know there has what I was meant to do, and I only realised this now. I was actually meant to look up other weird ways people try to get back at their ex after a relationship.
That seems like next week.
It seems like a next week thing. Now I do know one guy who, after he broke up with his girlfriend, he took all the backings out of her earrings before he left. Now that would be very, very annoying and very, very sly. Like you are an evil genius for doing that. Obviously, you really hate that person, and that's why you're doing this. But yeah, it seems like something that obviously he really wanted to get his revenge on this girl, and he just robbed all the backings of her earrings because that would piss anybody off.
Jesus Christ.
Do you know any kind of good get back at your ex stories, or if you've heard any good ones?
Not that I can think of offhand, no.
Yeah. No, I was meant to look into it. Maybe next week. Maybe actually this is a good time to ask our listeners if they've heard any stories, or if they've had any stories of people trying to get back at their ex, to email them into shitetalkpodcastshow@gmail.com.
Yeah, or even if they want to make up some that like could be real, that seem real, that we can laugh at.
I kind of want to hear actual stories like that they know about themselves. Like anybody could make up any stories. Like we could just sit here making up stories like to beat the band. But I think when it's actual stories, you know, this actually happened to somebody, it makes it that much
funnier.
It's a little bit funnier. Yeah, so like if you don't like emailing, you can just message us on Twitter or on Facebook at Shite Talk Show on both of them, and it's Shite Talk Podcast on Instagram.
Yeah. Send in shit.
Yeah, send us in your breakup get backs, and we'll have next week's show. We'll talk about some of our favorites, because the only one I could really think of was that one where a guy stole all the backings of a girl's earrings, which I thought was hilarious.
Yeah, that's like evil.
Yeah, it's quite sly. That's playing 4D chess right there.
I wonder, like, how much thought did he put into that? Like, was it something that he just got up and he said, you know what, fuck off, I know what I'm doing? Or did he think, what am I gonna do?
Yeah, obviously he must have left on bad terms, and he was like, I need something like that will get back at this girl that she's not gonna notice until I leave.
So they didn't agree to just be friends?
Probably not. I don't think they were going to be friends after. Anyway, I think we'll leave it there. Send in your suggestions or your stories you have of people doing mean things to their ex for whatever reason when they break up. If there's a reason why they did it, even better, send them in as well. And next week we have a story to talk about on the podcast. We're ahead of ourselves.
We're already there.
Yeah, exactly. We'll be back next Thursday with another show. Talk to you then.
See you later.
Shut up and sit down.